I was using my credit card to do the fix up and then paying them off and paying, working through this hamster wheel. But then I was like, but then I have all this credit card. So now I have to sell one to pay out the credit card. I was like, this is a hamster wheel. There is no ending. And I wish I could just sit on the couch and do nothing. And the universe gave me what I asked for. So number one, careful what you ask for.
Isn't that, let's really talk about that. That is so profound. Welcome to the Relaunch Podcast. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to someone that I have now had multiple conversations with because I found her so intriguing, so interesting, so dynamic on what she's doing. And you know that those are the people that I love to bring to this show. And on this episode today, I am thrilled to have DeAnna Lee. She is a remarkable real estate investor and visionary who knows how to turn something broken into something beautiful. After making waves in the real estate world, DeAnna had her sights set on freedom to do what she wants, freedom to still make an income, freedom to be able to have her sights set on things that were once the impossible. But the journey was anything but smooth. And in this conversation, DeAnna shares how she transitioned from the traditional real estate to some very exciting new ventures and what sparked her shift. And I think she's even going to give us an opportunity to understand a little bit more about investing in certain types of real estate. So get ready to hear an inspiring story of resilience, reinvention, and how life has a way of pushing us towards even greater dreams. Hey, DeAnna, so good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. What a great introduction. I am happy to be here.
Well, everyone is like, it's very interesting because you hear about a lot of real estate tycoons, what they're working on, come to this convention, come to this seminar. And I am excited to, in the second half of the show, give people what they really need, the facts. What really works, what doesn't, what's kind of an interesting new proposition here. But before we can do that, I always like to start with your significant relaunch, the thing that changed the trajectory of where you are today, and walking us through how you actually survived and in your case have totally thrived. And so let's start there with your relaunch.
Okay, great. So my story, we have life is wiggly. We have lots of different.
I like that. Life is wiggly, isn't it?
It's wiggly, exactly. We have lots of different setbacks and different things that come as challenges. And it was a little difficult to find the relaunch, but as I did realize that is exactly what happened. When you said from survival to thriving, it was a moment where I could have lost my life and I didn't, and I was grateful for it. So what happened? About, I think it was almost 4 years ago, when a lot of us had a reset in our life. I was, my kids had given me a dirt bike for Mother's Day, and I thought, great, I can learn to ride a motorcycle. I was in southern Utah, and I shattered my tib fib. And it was an interesting journey from having that happen to where I am now. And so,
okay, just so everyone, just because you said it so fast,
yeah,
tell us again, you shattered your what?
I shattered my tib fib, my tibula fibula. So it is your shin bone, basically in half. So let me rewind. Maybe I'll rewind and start a little bit sooner than that. Okay, so I've been in real estate, seems like my whole life, a real estate investor. My first home was a duplex I bought as a single mom. Moved my kids into it, knew the tenant would pay a portion of the rent. So I've always been a real estate investor. And what I did was and now I say I'd take something broken and make it beautiful, because I would take homes that needed repair, fix them up. I used what's called the BRRRR model, where you would buy, rehab, you buy it, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. That's the Burr model. Lots of real estate tycoons talk about it. I don't need to spend time on that, but that's what I did. And that was a trajectory I was on. I was working very hard. I was, my intention was to have 13 properties. 13 properties was my freedom number, which to me meant the option, the freedom to choose whether to work or not work. And I was working hard and burning out and had, children, family, life, like many of you. And
DeAnna, it's so interesting because you're saying 13. So many people view 13 as something super negative. Yet you're saying 13 is your freedom number. Hey, I want 13 properties. And I laugh because I did a podcast on tridecaphobia, fear of the 13th, because my stepdad was like, the 13th, the 13th. And I'm like, what's wrong with the 13th? So I love that you're like, let's embrace 13. That's what I did. I started to be like, I love 13. I love it. So good. All right. So how did you do against this quest of having 13 properties?
Okay. So that's exactly what I was doing. I was working. Okay. Side note on the 13th. I'm an August the 13th baby. So I'm a Friday the 13th baby. I love the 13th. So just
fellow Leo. I knew I liked you.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I'll embrace that as well. So yes, I was working hard and I said something, careful what you wish for. I said, I wish I could just sit on the couch and do nothing. And that was my pivotal moment. So working to burn out on this hamster wheel from hell to where I was buying properties, I was fixing them up, I was using my credit card to do the fix up and then paying them off and working through this hamster wheel. But then I was like, but then I have all these credit cards and I have to sell one to pay out the credit card. I was like, this is a hamster wheel. There is no ending. And I wish I could just sit on the couch and do nothing. And the universe gave me what I asked for. So number one, careful what you ask for.
Isn't that let's really talk about that. That is so profound. You are probably, and we're only on Wednesday, you are probably the 10th person this week alone that I have talked to that has said, oh my gosh, I said this, I thought this, and that's exactly what happened. Everybody listen to what you're saying out loud. And even more important, what you're thinking. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between if you're saying something out loud or you're thinking it. Yeah. Okay, so I love that. Okay, so I wish I could sit on the couch and do nothing is what you're thinking.
Exactly. I thought that would be lovely, right? And as a creative person, we found that is not as great as it seems. Maybe a couple days, maybe a weekend or a couple weeks here or there. So we went on this vacation. We went to Southern Utah. I was learning how to ride a motorcycle. I was having a lot of fun. And as you know, huge crash. I was going too fast. I didn't make the turn. And it was it was a very serious motorcycle accident. If I didn't have the gear on, I would have lost my leg. So I'm grateful to this day. That I still have my leg. And from that moment, it was a 4.5-hour rescue to the hospital, to the surgery. It was very serious. And coming out on the other end, I was grateful to have my leg. And then now I'm grateful to have the 9 months that I sat on the couch to create something amazing.
9 months.
So the recovery was 9 months. Yeah. 3 of those months, in fact, at the 3-month mark, I'm thinking that I'm young. I'm 45, but I was thinking that I was young and I'll recover in 6 weeks. And then we go to the 12-week appointment and the doctor says to me, it's not healing. What do you mean it's not healing? Like no progress has been made in 3 months. And so working through that, the mindset of, working on health, working on healing and those things, and also trying to keep life and business together, I had a lot of time to sit on the couch and reflect. And that is where really great things happen. When we get really busy and we're in the day-to-day, we've got our to-do lists in our family, and we have, especially as women, we have, 15 plates that we're spinning and trying to keep them all in the air. And, when are they going to drop? When we take the time, and usually it's better if we schedule that time so that we don't have the universe, do it for us. But if we take the time to reflect and look inward and journal, that's when I discovered I already hit my freedom number. And that was crazy. So freedom to me meant the option to work or not work, right? We get to choose. I will, as a creative person, I will probably always have some crazy creative venture that I'm creating, but that freedom to choose. And I sat down and I had penciled out everything, all the properties I owned, when they would be paid off, when we would be retired, what else I was going to do. I was sitting on the couch and I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, we've arrived. We can pay these off in the next 5 years and we can be done. And at that moment, when I realized we could be done and I could sit on the couch and do nothing for the rest of my life, I was like, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet.
You know what? I'm hoping that people out there, first off, I love that you said your freedom number, that number that allows you to either say you're done, whether you want to be done or not, you're like, okay. Now, a lot of times what happens, and I talk about this with a bottle of champagne, and I often say I was given this bottle during my heyday at Oracle, tech company in Silicon Valley. And I immediately put this bottle from this client up on the shelf. And I said, I'll drink this when? Almost like that number, right? When I hit this, when I have this type of year, when I make this money. And, fast forward 4 or 5 years, I go to leave the company and I grab the bottle. It's dusty up, blowing off the dust. And I have to say, there's a point where everyone starts to push their freedom number out there. Well, it could be a little more, a little more, a little more. How did you react? Because it could be the opposite of like, I'm just pushing out my freedom number. I'm still working. I still got it. But you really had a different kind of light go on. And it wasn't about the money. It was about something more than that you wanted to keep working. You wanted to keep developing. Because it's really a fine line between pushing out your freedom number to keep going, and saying, no, I've arrived. Like you said, I've arrived, but I'm still going to keep working. What went through your mind?
I realized sitting on the couch that the only things that were bringing me income were the vacation rental properties, the passive income where I could still work from anywhere on the couch, not, didn't shut down my income stream. And what I realized was that could happen for other people as well. And I went down the pathway of I could show people how to do this. I've done it and I could show other people. And what I realized was that is not for me. I'm not a coach. That's what you do. You're really good at that. And so I thought, okay, what is another way? What is another way that I can continue to create? Because what my passion is to create beautiful spaces for people to go and have amazing experiences. It started out with doing the long-term rentals where I would take something broken, like my leg, and make it beautiful. And then turning those into vacation rentals where people could come and have amazing experiences. And that's when I discovered my passion, being able to take that time quiet on the couch and be like, what is it that I really love to do about this? Yes, of course, they create income. Yes, of course, the numbers are important, but it's that lifestyle, right? It's the ability to create beautiful experiences in beautiful spaces for people to enjoy, including myself and my family. That's what was important to me. And I knew it's what was important deep down to other people. Why are they working so hard? Why are they pushing that freedom number out farther? Why are they continuing to work? Are they running from something? Are they seeking something? What is it? And for me, the purpose of life is to experience.
I would say that when people really genuinely sit down, and I have had so many conversations with people who are trying to figure out their purpose in life. What's my passion? Hilary, what should I really be doing right now? I really think experiences build it's like your photo album of life is not about, the dollar, the checks, but what the dollar and the checks do for you is allow you to have those experiences, have those moments. So I want to talk about today and what you're doing now with this next rev of your relaunch and what is important to you and how your properties and what you're doing, and give us some tips and tricks that we should know about the industry.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. So that's exactly right. So life is the purpose of life is to experience, and it's not just about providing a room for people to go and stay like a hotel room, right? Like you can put a bed in a room, you can decorate it, make it cute, but it's about the whole experience. What is it from the moment that they land at the airport until they get to their vacation rental property or their resort that we're creating? And that whole entire experience is what's key. It's from the beginning until the end, not just, okay, this is where we put our suitcases and they create their own. The tips and tricks, I would say, well, it is the art of the pivot, right? It's time to go from, I wanted for my entire life, I have always wanted a home on the cliffs by the sea. And that dream started when I was 17 years old and I moved to Hawaii. That is where all of this started. 25 years ago, that's where it all started. And fast forward, I don't know, 25 years, we had the opportunity to buy the resort, to buy that home on the coast by the sea. And, sometimes you ask for a home and life gives you a resort. So I'm not complaining. This is amazing. And at the exact same time, I had an opportunity to buy 143 acres in southern Utah where we're going to put in a glamping retreat. And it's amazing, right? So again, the experiences.
Okay, I have to pause you right now. Ladies out there, are you hearing what she just said? All these different retreats. You know where my mind's going. You're going to be hearing about retreats. You're going to be hearing about cool locations. Yes, yes, and yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I just had to prove that.
Thank you. Yes. Dial me and bring me back because I get real dreamy and I go down a rabbit hole. But this is exactly what I'm talking about is you set the dream, you work towards it. And so that's when I knew I wasn't finished, right? I wanted that home on the coast by the sea and the opportunity to not only purchase the resort, but also have the mountain property. I knew I couldn't choose. I was like, I can't choose between an ocean and a mountain. Those are my two favorite things. I love being in nature. And so I didn't want to choose. So I figured out how, and that's what I have created. So from there, the reason why I created this. So I've created something called collective destinations. And I don't know if this is the time we talk about this or not, but I'm going to.
Hey, I love this, but I'm still looking for the tips and tricks of how you knew which. I want to hear when you're buying properties.
Yes.
What you're looking for, what you avoid, but let's talk specifically about that business right now. And it's called Collective
Destinations.
Collective Destinations.
The reason why I created that was one, because I wanted to continue. I wanted to scale. I had properties. I had my 13 properties in 7 different destinations all over the world. And I didn't want to stop. And it is also part of the tips and tricks as well. So when I had the opportunity to buy not only the resort in the Caribbean, but also the mountain retreat, I had to say yes. I had to move forward with that. And I also knew it was time for the pivot. I mentioned the art of the pivot. You hear everything out there, right? Airbnb bust, Airbnb on fire. Vacation rentals aren't as great as they were. And it's true. We had the 2020, nobody could travel. So then we had the revenge travel. And then everybody seemed to suddenly be an Airbnb owner. And suddenly everybody owned one and everybody wanted to run one. And it's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable to own 1 or 2 or 3 properties. In order to manage one versus to manage 20, you need all of the same systems in place. You need the operations, you need the property management software, you need all of the softwares, all the automations, all the marketing, everything for one as you need for 100. And so
Interesting. Right? That's a really interesting comment. The person who is thinking about the one. Now they could be thinking, well, buying one is the first investment. You then make a little money to invest in the second, the third, the fourth, but we got to be thinking big picture, not just onesie, twosie. Yeah,
exactly. Strategically. And that's exactly what I did. And so as I was doing that, I was buying the 1 and then the 2 and then the 4. And when I was on the couch, my poor husband would come home from work and I'd be like, hey, I bought a duplex and a condo in Mexico. He's like, oh my gosh, give me your computer, give me your phone. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going to leave you here on the couch, take away your crutches, take away everything, and you can't move and you can't buy.
Exactly. But there was a reason for it. I saw the writing on the wall. I knew that this this was going to become oversaturated. People were, everybody was diving in, and it did. It became oversaturated in one area. And it's not to say that you can't make money owning one or two. I did. And I fully, if you're inspired to do this, please do this. But what I realized was I would be, I go to these communities, these women's communities all the time, these real estate meetups with women, badass women, right? That really are just doing really amazing things. And so it was a safe space where I felt like I could share, and we'd share, and I'd share how I created this empire. And it took me 15 years to build this, right? And they would say to me, I would love to do what you're doing. And they didn't, but I don't have the time, is what they said. I'd love to do what you're doing. Maybe one day I don't have the time. And that's what brings me back to why I actually created Collective Destinations. Because at first, when they were saying, I'd love to know what you're doing, would you teach me? I thought, sure, I could coach. And then I realized that's not my calling. But what I could do is give them what the essence of what they wanted to do. What I would hear them say was, I would love to do what you were doing. But if I dive deeper, what they were really saying is, I would love to experience travel in beautiful places with my family so I can create memories. I can stop working so hard, give them a moment to sit on the couch and do nothing, right? And so that's what I realized, was that they wanted the essence. They wanted to enjoy the properties without the headaches of managing them. And then, of course, if there are people that wanted to learn alongside of me, I'm an open book and I will teach. I will teach everything that I'm doing. I will open that up to anybody who wants to invest with me, right? This is something that you can do simultaneously. You can invest with Collective Destinations and build your empire simultaneously. But it takes some time, right? It took me 10 to 15
Okay,
years.
but wait. You just raced through a very critical part that you said, because a lot of people would like to get into, diversification of their portfolio and start to invest in properties. But what you just said is that instead of doing it alone, they can invest with you in properties.
Yeah.
All right. That is a very cool concept.
Yeah.
Because you have done it, you've done it successfully. And now you're saying, be by my side, learn, make some money as I make money. And then whether they want to go out on their own and buy additional properties, or whether they want to stay in the portfolio and continue to buy more with you. Okay, DeAnna,
Exactly.
that's cool. That's cool.
Exactly.
That is really interesting.
And they're already open and operational, right? Not all of them. Of course, we're still in the middle of the construction in the Dominican Republic and building out the glamping retreat. But we've got the properties that are already open, already making money, already cash flowing, because they don't have to take the time to wait for those to, well, some of mine are more new construction. I had to wait 3 or 4 years for some of my Mexico properties. So imagine they could put money into it, wait 3 years for it to be built, hope that it gets built, and then go in and get it out.
I think, you know what, I really like the concept. And as I go into this next journey for you, so I always talk about with my clients, looking at past relaunches, looking at the relaunches that you're currently going in. If I were to ask you future relaunches, what you're really going for, what you're, the remarkable lifestyle that you're creating, what does that look like for you?
Oh, the remarkable lifestyle I'm creating. I love the way you say
What's the next relaunch? What is the next relaunch for you?
Oh, I cannot wait to share this story when it's finished. But right now, I'll tell you what it looks like in my mind. And then
I love that. See, future identity, future lifestyle. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
So imagine I have 15, 20 wonderful women and men, of course, investors of all kinds that are fine. But I can vision myself with 20 like-minded, amazing, badass women that we all own these properties together. And my 13 number was a really important number to me. And I know a lot of people hear 13, they're like, that's small. I want 100 doors. I want 200 doors. I'm about the lifestyle, right? So imagine me and a group of like-minded, amazing women, and we own not only these condos in these little places that are lovely, I love them, but now we own resorts. We own a resort in the Dominican. We own a glamping retreat in Southern Utah. We can rinse and repeat. So now we have We have a glamping retreat in all of the beautiful places. Imagine an endless summer where you have, you can go glamping. Let me just explain what glamping is. Glamorous camping. In case people don't know what that is, it's because I don't sleep on the floor anymore, but I love nature. So imagine an endless summer where you can spend time in the national parks of Zion and Bryce Canyon in the summertime. Then in the wintertime, you can go to Patagonia and do the same thing in Latin America. Or we have a chateau in France where we can bring our families together and have amazing experiences in a vineyard in Italy, right? So I see us global. I see us bigger. The pivot, again, going back to the tips and tricks, is we don't want any more of the small 2-bedroom, 2-bath condos. There's too many and there's no experience to be created there. We want the resorts, we want the retreats, we want the vineyards, we want the experiences, the excursions, we want the whole thing. And so to be able to create these experiences in beautiful places all over the world, that's the dream. And the dream.
So DeAnna, I want to point something out. You know what I love about what you just said? There's no playing small here. When you're starting to talk about your next relaunch, the future relaunch, you're going big. You're dreaming big. You're not saying, hey, I want 13 more properties. That's not what she said. She's putting together a conglomerate of these incredible experiential places. And so for those listening, and I want to ask you this, you are big into, you said, journaling and visualization. How are you, when you're thinking about the future relaunch, when you're really thinking about pulling in these extraordinary men and women to be a part of this, what do you do when you're journaling, when you're visualizing? What are you asking for? Let's just talk journaling first. What are you saying? What are you putting out there so that you can actually start to put things down?
Yes, absolutely. So I always start, and I know you teach this as well, I always start with gratitude. Every morning I write what I call my gems, and I didn't make that up. That comes from my mentor, Matthew Ferry. And so I want to give him credit for that. But I've done it for at least 8 years every morning. And I do miss days, but let's just say every morning I sit down and I write my gems, which is what am I grateful for? What am I intending to experience that day? And what am I manifesting? And every day.
That's the GEM. That's great.
Yes. And every day I would do that for 8 years. I look back at my journals. A home on the cliffs by the sea, a cabin in the woods, a home on the cliffs by the sea, a cabin in the woods. So it's very repetitive. And oftentimes you're like, I'm grateful for the same thing every day. And then the next thing is being extremely grateful for the negative things that happen in our life. That's a hard one. It's a very hard one. But if I'm going to say the purpose of life is to experience, then that's the good things and the not so good things. Being grateful for those for the person it makes us be. The challenges, okay, here we go. The challenges that I'm in the middle of right now are what's going to take me to being able to have these resorts all over the world. Not belittling the condos, but the next step, the playing bigger, because it's painful, right? It's a challenge. And I don't think that any of us only have one relaunch story. It's like you're saying, what's the next relaunch? Well, the next relaunch is going to be after this one. I did a presentation to the women's group a couple months ago, and I called it From Crying in the Jungle to Dancing Barefoot in the Grass and Everything in Between.
Wow, that's so good.
Because it's not easy.
No, and I'm going to say something. Thank you for saying that, because there's a lot of women out there that are hitting walls right now, struggling. Business isn't growing the way they had hoped. Expenses have gone up. What worked isn't working. And there's a feeling of loneliness. There's a feeling of not belonging, isolation. And as we're going into this next phase of the next relaunch, of getting out of being stuck, feeling that, what's next, you have to realize that it is important to be thinking about the positives. We have a lot of negative relaunches. We have a lot of transitions. We have a lot of things that take us out at the knees with entrepreneurship. But there are the positive relaunches, and being grateful, as you said, that every single one of these things that people are going through right now, to have an understanding that there's a lesson. There's a lesson you're supposed to be learning. And yeah, it sucks. It sucks, everyone. But you got to go through it because it's your journey.
Yeah.
And the people that come out the other side, like you, are the ones that accept it as a lesson and not as it's catastrophic, it's over, I don't have, my dream has just blown up. It's kind of reassessing the situation, analyzing it, looking at it a little differently. And it is hard to do. And that is something that, I work with people on all the time to do that relaunch flipping this crappy thing that's happening into something positive. So I got to say, we could talk and talk. And thank you for being here. And I'm excited to have people hear you, feel your heart around these properties, these experiences. And if somebody is interested right now and saying, you know what, gosh, I'd like to hear more about investment opportunities, what she's working on next, what's coming, how can they find you?
CollectiveDestinations.com.
CollectiveDestinations.com.
Yeah, that's our website. You can book a call right directly with me. I mean, I wanted to say one more thing that came up as I was sharing. I know we're short on time, but a friend of mine, I didn't want to get on any podcasts because when you're in the challenge, you want to hide, you want to recluse, you want to be like, okay, let me just get this all figured out and then I'll talk about it. And my friend said to me, she said, you're never more relatable than when you're right in the middle of it. So that's why I was like, okay,
I don't know who your friend is, but she is a brilliant individual.
Yes.
And yes, when you are in the muck, a lot of times we just want to, put our head under the sheet and just be like, don't communicate, withdraw, be the turtle, pull that head back in and hope the hard shell isn't penetrated.
Yeah.
But guess what? Guess what that does? That keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
That keeps you not moving forward. And we talk about, these small micro actions, these micro pops. You taking this step today to be on here, to be able to share a little of the vulnerability that comes with expansion.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I'm grateful for you being here. I'm grateful that the people listening are like, and I'm going to throw something out to people listening. It's, DeAnna is saying some really profound things about herself, about where she is, about the struggles, about she's not in the comfort zone right now. She's in that freaking scary zone of like, what's going to be next. And where do you fall? Where do you fall? What zone are you in? Are you in the comfort zone where you're just kind of like coasting by? Are you in that really scary zone? Are you in the burnout zone, right? You're working yourself to the complete bone. You're doing so much. Think about where you are and then think about the other side. Think about you getting through and how do you get through and where do you go right now from where DeAnna is to that next step? We call it the G zone, the growth zone, the gratitude zone, the great zone. How do you get there? How do you keep getting there? And once again, you guys, small steps, being able to take that little step like DeAnna did today, which is probably a big step of getting herself to come on this podcast. So thank you again. Great conversation today. Again, we will have in the show notes where people can find you. And if you at all are thinking like, hey, I'm thinking about maybe diversifying, awesome, reach out to her. She's amazing. She'll talk to you about, what she's working on. And I have to throw out to the universe right now. Let's put out there that in the next, maybe 18 months, we create a relaunch experience at one of your experiential properties. All right?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Oh, I'm so excited.
Let's do it. All right, everyone. Take care. And I have to say, I often am pushing the, live now, love now, relaunch now. I mean, can we just say the show today? Live now, right? It is about living now. It's about understanding that you've made it through a whole lot of mess, but you're here.
Yep.
And love now is like open up, embrace what's next for you. And then let's relaunch now into the future together.
Okay.
All right.
An inspiration. Thank you so much, Hilary. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.